Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. February 14th, 2026.
Yes, it is February 14th, 2006. 2026. Whoops. Oh.
And you're going to play...
Good morning, yes. Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. I haven't started this.
All right. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
February 14th, 2026. And if you please turn to page 83 of your Complete Jewish Bible, we'll read Parashah 18, which begins with Exodus 21:1. These are the rulings you are to present to them. If you purchase a Hebrew slave, he is to work 6 years. But in the 7th, he is to be given his freedom without having to pay anything. If he came single, he's to leave single. If he was married when he came, his wife is to go with him when he leaves. But if his master gave him a wife, and she bore him sons or daughters, then the wife and her children will belong to her master, and he will leave by himself. Nevertheless, if the slave declares, I love my master, my wife, and my children, so I don't want to go free, then his master is to bring him before God, and there, at the door or the doorpost, his master is to pierce his ear with an awl, and the man will be his slave for life.
If a man sells his daughter as a slave, she's not to go free like the men slaves. If her master married her but decides she no longer pleases him, then he is to allow her to be redeemed. He is not allowed to sell her to a foreign people because he has treated her unfairly. If he has her marry his son, then he is to treat her like a daughter. If he marries another wife, he is not to reduce her food, clothing, or marital rights. If he fails to provide her with these 3 things, she's to be given her freedom without having to pay anything.
Whoever attacks a person and causes his death must be put to death. If it was not premeditated, but an act of God, then I will designate for you a place to which he can flee. But if someone willfully kills another after deliberate planning, you are to take him even from my altar and put him to death.
Whoever attacks his father or mother must be put to death.
Whoever kidnaps someone must be put to death, regardless of whether he has already sold him or the person is found still in his possession.
Whoever curses his father or mother must be put to death.
If 2 people fight, and one hits the other with a stone or with his fist, and the injured party doesn't die, but is confined to his bed, then if he recovers enough to be able to walk around outside, even if with a cane, the attacker will be free of liability, except to compensate him for his loss of time and take responsibility for his care until his recovery is complete.
If a person beats his male or female slave with a stick so severely that he dies, he's to be punished, except that if the slave lives for a day or 2, he is not to be punished, since the slave is his property.
If people are fighting with each other and happen to hurt a pregnant woman so badly that her unborn child dies, then even if no other harm follows, he must be fined. He must pay the amount set by the woman's husband and confirmed by judges. But if any harm follows, then you are to give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, and bruise for bruise.
If a person hits his male or female slave's eye and destroys it, he must let him go free in compensation for his eye. If he knocks out his male or female slave's tooth, he must let him go free in compensation for his tooth.
If an, stupid thing. Sorry, I meant to leave that in the other room.
If an ox gores a man or a woman to death, the ox is to be stoned and its flesh not eaten, but the owner of the ox will have no further liability. However, if the ox was in the habit of goring in the past and the owner was warned but did not confine it, so that it ended up killing a man or a woman, then the ox is to be stoned. And its owner, too, is to be put to death. However, a ransom may be imposed on him, and the death penalty will be commuted if he pays the amount imposed. If the ox gores a son or daughter, the same rule applies. If the ox gores a male or female slave, its owner must give their master 12 ounces of silver, and the ox is to be stoned to death.
If someone removes the cover from a cistern, or digs one and fails to cover it, and an ox or donkey falls in, the owner of the cistern must make good the loss by compensating the animal's owner, but the dead animal will be his.
If one person's ox hurts another's, so that it dies, they are to sell the live ox and divide the revenue from the sale, and they are also to divide the dead animal. But if it is known that the ox was in the habit of goring in the past, and the owner did not confine it, he must pay ox for ox, but the dead animal will be his.
If someone steals an ox or sheep and slaughters or sells it, he is to pay 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep.
If a thief caught in the act of breaking in is beaten to death, or it is not murder, unless it happens after sunrise, in which case it is murder. A thief must make restitution. So if he has nothing, he himself is to be sold to make good the loss from the theft. If what he stole is found alive in his possession, he's to pay double, no matter whether it's an ox, a donkey, or a sheep.
If a person causes a field or vineyard to be grazed over, or lets his animal loose to graze in someone else's field, he's to make restitution from the best produce of his own field and vineyard.
If a fire is started and spreads to thorns, so that stacked grain, standing grain, or a field is destroyed, the person who lit it must make restitution.
If a person entrusts a neighbor with money or goods, and they are stolen from the trustee's house, then if the thief is found, he must pay double. But if the thief is not found, then the trustee must state before God that he did not take the person's goods himself. In every case of dispute over ownership, whether an ox, a donkey, a sheep, clothing, or any missing property, whether one person says, "This is mine," both parties are to come before God, and one whom God condemns must pay the other one double.
If a person trusts a neighbor to look after a donkey, ox, sheep, or any animal, and it dies, is injured, or is driven away unseen, then the neighbor's oath before Adonai that he has not taken the goods will settle the matter between them. The owner is to accept it without the neighbor's making restitution. But if it was stolen from the neighbor, he must make restitution to the owner. If it was torn to pieces by an animal, the neighbor must bring it as evidence, and then he doesn't need to make good the loss.
If someone borrows something from his neighbor and he gets injured or dies with the owner not present, he must make restitution. If the owner was present, he may not make good the loss. If the owner hired it out, the loss is covered by the hiring fee.
If a man seduces a virgin who's not engaged to be married and sleeps with her, he must pay the bride price for her to be his wife. But if her father refuses to give her to him, he must pay a sum equivalent to the bride price for virgins.
You are not to permit a sorceress to live.
Whoever has sexual relations with an animal must be put to death.
Anyone who sacrifices to any god other than Adonai alone is to be completely destroyed.
You must neither wrong nor oppress a foreigner living among you, for you yourselves were foreigner in the land of Egypt.
You are not to abuse any widow or orphan. If you do abuse them in any way, and they cry to me, I will certainly heed their cry. My anger will burn, and I will kill you with the sword. Your own wives will be widows, and your own children fatherless.
If you loan money to one of the people who are poor, you are not to deal with him as you would a creditor, and you are not to charge him interest. If you take your neighbor's coat as collateral, you are to restore it to him by sundown, because it is his only garment. He needs to wrap his body. What else does he have in which to sleep? Moreover, if he cries out to me, I will listen, because I am compassionate.
You are not to curse God, and you are not to curse a leader of your people.
You are not to delay offering from your harvest of grain, olive oil, or wine. The firstborn of your sons you are to give to me. You are to do the same with your oxen and your sheep. It is to stay with its mother 7 days, and on the 8th day you are to give it to me.
You are to be my specially separated people. Therefore, you're not to eat any flesh torn by wild animals in the countryside. Rather, throw it out for the dogs.
You are not to repeat false rumors. Do not join hands with the wicked by offering perjured testimony. Do not follow the crowd when it comes to what is wrong. And don't allow the popular view to sway you into offering testimony for any cause if the effect will be to prevent justice. On the other hand, don't favor a person's lawsuit simply because he is poor.
If you come upon your enemy's ox or donkey straying, you must return it to him. If you see the donkey which belongs to someone who hates you lying down helpless under its load, you are not to pass him by, but to go and help him free it.
Do not deny anyone justice in his lawsuit simply because he is poor. Keep away from fraud, and do not cause the death of innocent and righteous. For I will not justify the wicked. You are not to receive a bribe, for a bribe blinds the clear-sighted and subverts the cause of the righteous.
You are not to oppress a foreigner, for you know how a foreigner feels, since you were foreigners from the land of Egypt.
For 6 years you are to sow your land with seed and gather its harvest, but on the 7th year you are to let it rest and lie fallow, so that the poor among your people can eat, and what they leave the wild animals in the countryside can eat. Do the same with your vineyard and your olive grove.
For 6 days you are to work, but on the 7th day you are to rest, so that your ox and donkey can rest, and your slave girl's son and the foreigner be renewed.
Lost my place.
Pay attention to everything I have said to you. Do not invoke the names of other gods, or even let them be heard, crossing your lips.
3 times a year you're to observe the festival for me, a festival for me. Keep the festival of matzah for 7 days, as I ordered you. You're to eat matzah at the time determined in the month of Aviv, for it was in that month that you left Egypt. No one is to appear before me empty-handed. Next, the festival of harvest, the first fruits of your efforts sowing in the field. And last, the festival of ingathering. At the end of the year, when you gather in from the fields the results of your efforts. 3 times a year, all your men are to appear before the Lord Adonai.
You are not to offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, nor is the fat of my festival to remain all night until morning.
You're to bring the best first fruits of your land into the house of Adonai your God.
You are not to boil a young animal in its mother's milk.
I'm sending an angel ahead of you to guard you on the way and bring you to a place I have prepared. Pay attention to him, listen to what he says, and do not rebel against him, because he will not forgive any wrongdoing of yours, since my name resides in him. But if you listen to what he says and do everything I tell you, then I will be an enemy of your enemies and a foe of your foes. When my angel goes ahead of you and brings you to the Amorite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Canaanite, the Hivite, and the Yevusi, I will make an end of them. You are not to worship their gods, serve them, or follow their practices. Rather, you are to demolish them completely and smash their standing stones to pieces.
You are to serve Adonai your God, and he will bless you with food and water. I will take sickness away from among you. In your land your woman will not miscarry or be barren, and you will live out the full span of your lives. I will send terror of me ahead of you, throwing into confusion all the people to whom you've come. I will make all your enemies turn their backs on you. I will send hornets ahead of you to drive out the Hittite, the Canaanite, the Hittite from before you. I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, which would cause the land to become desolate and the wild animals too many for you. I will drive them out from before you gradually, until you have grown in number and can take possession of the land. I will set your boundaries from the Sea of Suf to the Sea of the Philistines, and from the desert to the Euphrates River. For I will hand the inhabitants of the land over to you, and you will drive them out from before you. You are not to make a covenant with them or with their gods. You are not to live in your land. Otherwise, they will make you sin against me by ensnaring you to serve their gods.
To Moses, Adonai said, "Come up to Adonai, you, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the leaders of Israel. Prostrate yourselves at a distance while Moses alone approaches Adonai. The others are not to approach, and the people are not to go up with him." Moses came and told the people everything Adonai had said, including all the rulings. The people answered with one voice, "We will obey every word Adonai has spoken."
Moses wrote down all the words of Adonai. He rose early in the morning, built an altar at the base of the mountain, and set upright 12 large stones to represent the 12 tribes of Israel. He sent the young men of the people of Israel to offer burnt offerings and sacrifice peace offerings of oxen to Adonai. Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins. The other half of the blood he splashed against the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it aloud, so the people could hear, and they responded. Everything that Adonai has spoken, he will do and obey. We will do and obey. Moses took the blood, sprinkled it on the people, and said, This is the blood of the covenant which Adonai has made with you in accordance with all these words.
Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the leaders went up, and they saw the God of Israel. Under his feet was something like sapphire stone pavement, as clear as the sky itself. He did not reach out his hand against these notables of Israel. On the contrary, they saw God, even as they were eating and drinking.
Adonai said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and stay there. I will give you the stone tablets with the Torah and the mitzvah I have written on them, so that you can teach them." Moses got up. Also, Joshua, his assistant, and Moses went up onto the mountain of God. To the leaders he said, "Stay here for us until we come back to you. See, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a problem should turn to them." Moses went up onto the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory of Adonai stayed on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. On the 7th day he called to Moses out of the cloud. To the people of Israel, the glory of Adonai looked like a raging fire on the top of the mountain. Moses entered the cloud and went up on the mountain. He was on the mountain 40 days and nights. And then, if you please, turn to page 606. We'll read Jeremiah 34:8 through 22.
34:1?
34:8.
Oh, 34:8. Okay. This word came to Jeremiah from Adonai after King Etziyahu had made a covenant with all the people in Jerusalem to emancipate them. Everyone who had a male or female slave who was Hebrew was to let him go free. None was to keep as his slave a fellow Jew. All the leaders and all the people listened who had entered into the covenant. Therein everyone was to free his male and female slaves and not keep them in bondage any longer. They listened and they let them go. But afterwards they changed their minds. They made the male and female slaves whom they had freed return, and they brought them back into subjection as slaves. Therefore this word of Adonai came to Jeremiah from Adonai. Here is what Adonai, the God of Israel, says: When I brought your ancestors out of the land of Egypt, where they lived as slaves, I made a covenant with them. At the end of 7 years, every one of you is to set free his brother Hebrew, who has been sold to you and has served you 6 years. You are to let him go free from you. But your ancestors did not listen to me or pay any attention. Now you repented. You did what is right. From my viewpoint, when each of you proclaimed freedom to his fellow, and you made a covenant before me in the house bearing my name, but then you changed your minds. You profaned my name when each of you took back his male and female slaves, whom you had set free to live as they wished, and brought them back into subjection as your slaves. Therefore, here is what Adonai says: You did not heed me and proclaim freedom, each to his brother and each to his neighbor. So now I proclaim for you a freedom, says Adonai, a sword for sword, plague, and famine. I will make you an object of horror to all the kingdom on earth. As for the men who violated my covenant by not living up to the conditions of the covenant which they made in my presence when they cut the calf in two and passed between its parts. The leaders of Judah, the leaders of Jerusalem, the officials, the Cohen, and all the people of the land who passed between the parts of the calf, I will hand them over to their enemies, hand them over to those who seek their lives, and their corpses will become food for birds in the air and wild animals. Hezekiah, king of Judah, and his officials will hand over to their enemies, to those who seek their lives, and to the army of the king of Babel, which has withdrawn. I will give the order, says Adonai, and cause them to return to this city. They will attack it, capture it, burn it to the ground.
Unknown caller.
Boy, we're popular today, huh?
Sorry about that.
Whew.
And if you please
Wait
turn...
a minute, I didn't finish that.
Sorry.
I will return them to the city. They will attack it, capture it, burn it down, and I will make the cities of Judah desolate and uninhabited.
Then on page 1237, we'll read Matthew 12:1 through 21.
Right.
One Shabbat during that time, Yeshua was walking through some wheat fields. His disciples were hungry, so they began picking heads of grain and eating them. On seeing this, the Pharisees said to him, "Look, your disciples are violating Shabbat." But he said to them, "Haven't you ever read what David did when he and those with him were hungry? He entered the house of God and ate the bread of the presence, which was prohibited both to him and to his companions. It is permitted only to the Cohen. Or haven't you read in the Torah that on Shabbat the Cohen profaned Shabbat and yet are blameless? I tell you, there is in this place something greater than the temple. If you knew what I want compassion rather than animal sacrifice meant, you would not condemn the innocent, for the Son of Man is Lord of Shabbat."
Going on from that place, he went into their synagogue. A man there had a shriveled hand. Looking for a reason to accuse him of something, they asked him, "Is healing permitted on Shabbat?" But he answered, "If you have a sheep that falls in a pit on Shabbat, which of you won't take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is a man than a sheep? Therefore, what is permitted on Shabbat is to do good." Then to the man he said, "Hold out your hand." As he held it out, it became restored, as sound as the other one. But the Pharisees went out and began plotting how they might do away with Yeshua. Aware of this, he left the area.
Many people followed him, and he healed them all, but warned them not to make him known. This was to fulfill what had been spoken through Isaiah the prophet. "Here is my servant whom I have chosen, my beloved with whom I am well pleased. I will put my spirit on him, and he will announce justice to the Gentiles. He will not fight or shout. No one will hear his voice in the streets. He will not snap off a broken reed or snuff out a smoldering wick until he has brought justice through to victory. In him the Gentiles will put their hope." And then,
Wasn't that Jeremiah the prophet?
it might have been.
Yeah, I think so. They have a weird way of spelling it in Hebrew. Since we were just reading Jeremiah, I'm pretty sure that's Jeremiah. Just a correction.
Then on page 1403, we'll read Romans 2:7 through 29.
1403. Page 1403. And that would be
Romans 2:7.
Romans 2:7. Okay. To those who seek glory, honor, and immortality, and perseverance in doing good, he will pay back eternal life. But to those who are self-seeking, who disobey the truth and obey evil, he will pay back wrath and anger.
Yes, he'll pay back misery and anguish to every human being who does evil. To the Jew first, then to the Gentile. But glory and honor and peace to everyone who keeps doing what is good. To the Jew first, then to the Gentile. For God does not show favoritism. All who have sinned outside the framework of the Torah will die outside the framework of Torah, and all who have sinned within the framework of Torah will be judged by Torah. For it's not merely the hearers of Torah whom God considers righteous. Rather, it is the doers of what Torah says who will be made righteous in God's sight. For whenever Gentiles who have no Torah do naturally what the Torah requires, then these, even though they don't have Torah for themselves, are Torah. For their lives show that the conduct of the Torah dictates what it dictates is written in their hearts. Their consciences also bear witness to this, for their conflicting thoughts sometimes accuse them and sometimes defend them on a day when God passes judgment on people's most inmost secrets. According to the good news as I proclaim it, he does this through the Messiah, Yeshua.
But if you call yourselves a Jew and rest on Torah and boast about God and know his will and give your approval to what is right, because you have been instructed from the Torah, and if you have persuaded yourself that you are a guide to the blind, a light in the darkness, an instructor of the spiritually unaware, and a teacher of children, since the Torah you have the embodiment of knowledge and truth. Then you who teach others, don't you teach yourself? Preaching, thou shalt not steal. Do you steal? Saying, thou shalt not commit adultery. Do you commit adultery? Detesting idols. Do you commit idolatrous acts? You who take such pride in Torah, do you, by disobeying the Torah, dishonor God? Is it as it says in the Tanakh, for it is because of you that God's name is blasphemed by the Goyim. Circumcision is indeed of value if you do what Torah says. But if you are transgressor of Torah, your circumcision has become uncircumcision. Therefore, if an uncircumcised man keeps the righteous requirements of the Torah, won't his uncircumcision be counted as circumcision? Indeed, the man who is physically uncircumcised but obeys the Torah will stand as a judgment on you who have had the Brit Milah and have Torah written out but violate it. For the real Jew is not merely Jewish outwardly. True circumcision is not only external and physical. On the contrary, a real Jew is one inwardly. A true circumcision is of the heart, spiritual, not literal, so that his praise comes not from other people, but from God. Thank you, Father God, for this Shabbat. Help us to continue to rest today and trust you. We humble ourselves before you, Lord, and we're thankful for all the blessings that you give us, and we thank you for your guidance that we depend on. Amen.
Amen.
Yes. We do depend on the guidance.